In this video, I will show you how to request repairs and negotiate repairs using a request for repair form, CAR form RR. Also, the seller response to that form, which is the CAR form RRRR, which is one of the silliest acronyms for any of these forms. Now, this was revised in late 2023, but here we are in October of 2024, and this is still the current version, the newest version of this form. And this form doesn't change much throughout revisions, so this video should be good for years to come. Now, keep in mind that requesting repairs, there's nothing contractually that obligates this to happen. This is like negotiating counteroffers in the middle of escrow, but here's the thing. The seller has no obligation to answer a request for repairs. Now, the buyer has leverage though, and this is very important. The buyer's leverage is that they can make requests of the seller during the inspection period. And if the seller refuses, the buyer can cancel. That's the buyer's leverage. So it's very important because if the buyer concedes their leverage by sending a contingency removal, well, what incentive does the seller have to agree to any repairs? None. The seller can just say, no, I'm not going to repair anything, and you're stuck in this escrow, so too bad. So the buyer's leverage is a very important factor in all this. Now, ideally, this will happen after the buyer has done all sorts of investigations, like having a physical property inspection and a termite inspection and whatever other inspection is necessary. And now once all that's done, toward the end of the inspection period, they're going to ask the seller to do something if it's warranted. Of course, this doesn't have to happen at all. Just like I said, the seller doesn't have to respond to this. But let's say the buyer does want something, and the buyer is going to make a request because it's customary, not necessary or obligatory, but simply customary. The buyer is going to, well, I should say the buyer's agent is going to write the date they're preparing the form. By default, it cites the purchase agreement because here's the thing, this is an amendment, or this is, I should say, it's a proposed addendum or an amendment to the contract. That's what this is. It's all dressed up like a request for repair form. It's all in this template to make it easy for us. But the thing is this could be done on a Word document. That's it. You're just in the middle of escrow and you say, hey, by the way, I want to change the terms. And I want to change the terms based on this inspection I received. And if you don't, I'll cancel. That's what this is at its core. So I'm just trying to simplify what we're doing here. So you put in all this information up here. This is simple. Now I want to show you where agents get this wrong. When you check this box here and you create a list of items that you want repaired, let's say we're just talking about repairs right now. So if you want to do it on a separate list, because one of the many flaws of these CAR forms is that they don't give you any space. The counteroffer has no space. This form has no space. So you can check this right here and put a date on a list and write up a Word document with a list if you want. But I'm just going to put it here since we don't have a lot of examples. Now, when you ask for things to be repaired, which is what we're doing when we check 1A, those things should be very specific in terms of a correction and an outcome. Because a big problem I see is agents, they'll write in things, it's like a narrative. It's like, hey, there's a leaky faucet. So let me show you what I'm talking about here, because I wrote these out and I like to itemize with numerically to make it easy to read. But let's just look at what I wrote in here. Repair leak under master bathroom sink. Okay, repair a leak. It's leaking or it's not. Very easy to see if that was corrected, right? When you do your final walkthrough. And then you should reference where on the inspection you can refer back to the inspection as a reference point of what exactly I'm talking about. Do you need more information? Did you not know there was a leak under the master bathroom sink? Well, if you look at item 23 in the inspection, you'll see that there's a picture of a pipe under the sink that's leaking. Fix it. It shouldn't leak. And when I walk through there before closing, it better not be leaking. That's what's going on here. Patch drywall in master bedroom. Inspection item number 28. If you walk into the master bedroom and there's a hole in the wall, maybe some furniture punctured through some drywall, that needs to be patched. And if you reference the inspection, then the seller can look at it and they can see, oh, there it is, item 20, 8, there's a picture of a hole in the wall, so we need to make sure it's patched. Do you see what we're talking about here? Replace torn screen in kitchen. Put in a screen without a tear in it. This is simple stuff. The problem I see all the time is agents just write in these things like they'll write in and I have an example, like check water pressure, or return water pressure to this, or check on this, or here's a very common one. They identify things. There is evidence of water under the kitchen sink or something like that. Okay, that's a statement. That means nothing. There's no contractual need to make a correction or remedy a problem. Do you see the point I'm making here? Don't make that mistake. So I write, don't just say check water pressure or water pressure is too high or something like that, because you're not writing a story. You're not declaring problems. The problems are declared in your inspection. You're saying, after the problem's identified, you're saying how you want the problem corrected. So you write, install water pressure regulator to reach PSI below 70. And I've misspelled the word inspection. Maybe that's actually to make it look even more authentic, because most of these documents I see have typos on them anyway. So inspection item number 30. And then now someone can see, oh, the water pressure is at 78. That's too high for a home. It should be no more than 70 at the most. So you're saying put a new water pressure regulator on there, because you can go verify that. You can't verify things if you say moisture in master bathroom. Okay, you declared something. Whoop-de-doo. You're not saying, remedy visible mold in master bathroom shower, and then a picture of mold. Do you see the point? I hope I'm not going on too long, but this is a very common mistake. I see that on counteroffers. I see it on addendums. People like to tell stories or declare stuff, and the implication is to make a repair or do something, but there's no contractual enforcement of that. Just because you declare that there's water, evidence of water under the kitchen sink means nothing. Okay, then we continue on. Do you have a termite report? Do you want Section 1 termite clearance? Check this box, reference the date of the report, the name of the termite company, and then move on. Now, you can also request by checking a box down here, and you can check more than one box. It's not one or the other. And that's another mistake I see agents make. They'll do something like, they think this is a multiple choice that they're giving the seller. They think they're offering the seller the option of repair or credit the buyer a dollar amount, which is what we're looking at on line C, or reduce the purchase price. And then, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Sellers, you get to choose. Which one do you want? Or do you want to do a combo of both? It doesn't work that way. You're asking for everything that you check. So they can't contradict each other. You can't ask for some big credit and write a price reduction in unless you truly want both, because it's an all or nothing proposition. Every box you check here, you're asking for that. And of course, you can ask for a reduction in the purchase price, which I never recommend unless it's a cash buyer. That's a different subject. Okay, and then attach reports. And you can put in the inspection report. We've already referenced the termite report up here. If there's any other, like a roof or septic or sewer or whatever, you can put that in there. Now, there's a section for VA because FHA and VA loans sometimes require repairs to be done before they'll fund the loan. They have more stringent lending requirements, so that's why they have that here. So if you have an FHA or VA buyer, and you can fill that out here. And then you can also offer, now, unless the listing agent was really angry with me and we'd been making mistakes and they were at their last, wit's end, let's say, with me as a buyer's agent, I would not offer up a contingency removal. I would not do that. That's what paragraph 4 is. It's basically saying that contingencies will be removed upon seller acceptance, which is a gesture from the buyer. Do you want to do it? I mean, go for it. I wouldn't by default. And if you want to shorten the expiration, you can put it in here, but I think it's pointless, to be honest. I mean, many agents don't, unless you really need to enforce the seller to make up their mind prior to the third day of receiving this, there's no point in modifying this. You can just leave this as default in paragraph 5, and then the buyer signs it. You're done. That's your request. Your request has been made. Now, the seller can respond on the bottom part. We're on page 2 of this form, okay? And there are all these different options where the seller can choose on how they want to proceed. And this, for the most part, renders this form, the seller response form, obsolete. And which is a good thing, because saying RRRR sounds so ridiculous that whenever you can make this form obsolete, why don't they just call it form like SRR or something, SRR or SR, the SR form? Why do they have to say RR? We say in my office, we say quadruple R. So we don't sound like we're just, having some sort of mental glitch where we can't get past the word R. So quadruple R. Now, if you can avoid the quadruple R, go for it. And you can do it by having the seller, now we're switching over to all you listing agents, can agree to all and checking 1A, or some. And then you say you request to all, you agree to all of the buyer's requests except for, and then you put in the exceptions. Because you know how in a counteroffer you can have like 5 items, and if 4 are okay, but number 5 is not, then all you have to do is remove number 5. And you automatically agree. I mean, sometimes agents write all of their terms to remain. That's redundant. You don't have to write that. You just write all you're changing in a counteroffer or this is that which you do not agree to. That's it. That's why it says you agree to everything except. They're spelling it out for you. I mean, these forms are really made to baby people. Okay. Now, keep in mind, so up here, everything except this. Now, there are other options. So agree to all, agree to some, credit the buyer, modify the purchase price, make up your own. Or there's even a way down here to incorporate that quadruple R. Now, why would you need to do it? Why? I'm just thinking out loud here. Why? Because if I was a listing agent and I received this, this form, I would probably, so the time you'd incorporate this quadruple R is if you radically reject everything here. Now, of course, you can just put that you reject it or not answer it at all. Or you can do a quadruple R and you can just basically redraft your own. And that's what this form is. I'll go through this very quickly. But it basically is saying, I'm not even engaging in the nonsense you wrote up here, but I am willing to do something, just nothing that you wrote, or maybe one thing that you wrote. You don't really need that quadruple R form. They basically made it obsolete with this page 2 here. But if you want to redo it, if you want to just totally just say, forget all this, I'm going to do something totally different instead, and you don't even want to use this as a platform, basically that rejecting this and then just doing your quadruple R form is going to give the seller the position to say, I'm not doing anything, but I will do these things, and totally changing and taking control of the conversation of what they're willing to repair. And even that can be accomplished by checking this box other and writing something like, seller only agrees to the following repairs listed on Exhibit A, and then have Exhibit A dated whatever, and then have a Word document filling that out. And now just that'll totally supersede any of this that the buyer wrote. So I guess we're right now discovering in real time that this actually is obsolete, which is good because of this ridiculous acronym. Because this, look at it, it's the same thing as page 2 here. Now, maybe there's a need that can't be accomplished here, but hey, if you have this other right here, you can make up whatever you want for the seller's response. Now, when the seller responds, and let's say there's a partial agreement, because if the seller agrees to everything, it's done. If the seller does a partial agreement, then this can go back to the buyer again. And now the buyer can accept the seller's partial acceptance, or the buyer can just say, okay, forget all this, let's scrap it and start over with they withdraw a request for repair number 1 and make a request for repair number 2. And then they start over with a whole new one of these, and they write a number 2 up on the top. And the whole process starts over. And I think at this point, you get it. That's it. That's negotiating repairs in the middle of escrow. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. Thank you for watching.